Exercise 104 is introducing you to the concept of investing money in shares. Now, the reason that people invest in shares is because they can make money. There is always the possibility that the share market could crash, which you've probably heard of in the past happening, and that the shares are worth less. This is obviously not the position people want to find themselves in. However, just be aware that when you invest in shares, you could either make a profit or a loss. Many questions ask you ultimately to determine whether there's been a profit or a loss. And in order to do that, you need to understand some terminology within the share market. There are, as you will see in your notes, the face value is often referred to, and that was the original value of the share. So when shares originally are floated on the market for sale, they're done so with an given amount. It could be as low as 50 cents. There might be a lot of confidence in this particular industry, and so the shares begin at $2. Whatever that value is that is set by the company that's selling the shares is called the face value. So what they're hoping is that lots of people will buy those shares at that value, and once there is enough interest in the company, then they're able to increase the value of the share and get more money invested in the company. The market value then is like the present value. So shares may increase, that it may go up, or it may go down from its original value, or even from the market value of the share, say, yesterday. Today it may be more or less than what it was on the market for yesterday. A dividend is like a bonus actually given to those people who invest in the company, who buy shares in the company. Now, dividends are when the business is doing, the company is doing really, really well, and it looks at its overall profit, then it decides to give some of that profit to its shareholders. People who've bought shares in a company are called the shareholders. So the company every year divides up a portion of the profit and gives it as a bonus to the shareholders. So bonus to shareholders. The dividend yield just means percentage. The yield is calculated by taking the actual dividend, putting it over the market value. So you can see we've formed a fraction, and then multiply that fraction by 100, which will give you a percentage. It's sort of saying, what percentage of the value of the share am I prepared to give you as a bonus? It's a percentage of the value of the share that is given out as the bonus. The bonus is called the dividend. Sometimes dividends obviously you can see it may be expressed as a fraction, as a percentage, or it just might be a flat amount. You'll see some questions where, regardless of the market value, so no consideration for the market value, they might just say, we're giving a flat out 20 cent per share as a dividend, and no mention, like I said, of the actual market value of the share. say that one of the most difficult things about any questions about shares is that each question will be different. So that makes it difficult, because you have to be prepared to do some particular process for one question, but a completely different one maybe for the next question. The ways that they can be different is they may or may not talk about a broker and brokerage. So the broker is actually the person, the buyer. So you might employ a buyer or seller. This is someone who actually does the work for you in buying the shares. The reason you have someone do that for you is because the share market operates 24 hours a day, and for most of us, we like to sleep at night, but the share market is still operating because it's an international share market, and while we're sleeping across the other side of the world, it's their business time, it's day, and they're running their businesses, and the share market is operating. So, you don't want to miss out on an opportunity on buying shares or selling your shares just because you're asleep and it's nighttime here, and you maybe have missed out on a good opportunity to invest in a company that's on the other side of the world. So, like I said, you employ a broker to watch this for you, and he, of course, expects a fee. He expects some money for that, so it's a fee paid to the broker. Now, it's a little bit like commission when you sell your house. So, and the broker is a little bit like an agent. You'll notice that I've coloured some of the symbols black and some of the symbols red. I'll just keep going with the black symbols. And I'll take that off there. The reason that I did these in black, these money ones, is because not so much that one, but this dividend. This dividend is a bonus, it's a plus. The ones coloured red are costs to the person. So your market value, the cost of the share, market value is like the cost of the share. It's money you've got to pay out, and your brokerage fee is money you've got to pay out. The dividend is money you get in, and when you sell your share, you actually get money in. It's important, remember I said at the beginning that you're going to be asked in lots of cases whether you made a profit or a loss. So it's important that you can actually divide these aspects of buying and selling shares into costs and incomes. So the costs are the purchase price. Obviously got to pay for the share, and another cost is your brokerage. Your income is going to be obviously a dividend, and you get the dividends are paid once a year, so you've got to hold on to your shares for one whole year in order to be eligible for a dividend. And the other one is selling the share. Well, I'll just write sale of share. Just keep in mind brokerage might need to be paid both when you purchase and you sell. And again, all of that should be written in the question. That's going to be the detail that you're looking for in the question. Let's have a look at this example. Ilhia had 2,000 CBA shares valued at $162,800. That's a nice investment. And received a dividend of $1.99 per share. What was the dividend yield? Correct to 2 decimal places. You'll notice that I've underlined the important features there. What I'm going to do now is write them up mathematically. So you can see I've done that, and there's no standard name for any of these numbers that I've highlighted, but I just use my own understanding of what's going on. The number of shares is 2,000. The total value of the shares is 162,800. The dividend is $1.99 per share. The question says, what was the dividend yield? Find the dividend yield and give it to 2 decimal places. Because the question says, find the dividend yield, what has to come to mind immediately is dividend yield equals dividend per share over market price of a share, just one share, and multiply that by 100. Now, I do have the dividend per share. That was this. Dividend, $1.99 per share. So I could start to write this up mathematically. It's $1.99 over. I don't have the market price of one share. I know the total value of the shares and the number of shares, but to get the market price, I have to take the total value and divide by the 2,000. So you can see that I've done that here, and on the calculator you can see it's simply that. Now, continuing on here, the dividend share is the dividend yield, is the dividend per share over the market price of one share, and we multiply that by 100. Let me go back to the calculator. And you can see there that that gives me 2.444. So 2.444, but to 2dp, oh, we better check that, 2dp. Yes, I'll be cutting off a 4, so it is 2.44% to 2dp. In this next example, there's quite a lot of information that you have to register. So it's Kaylin bought 500 shares, and you can see that I've translated that at $24.60 per share. It's important to recognise the cost of the share, with a dividend yield of 4.2%. This time in this question, you're actually given the dividend yield. So that's what I meant earlier in the video when I said every question will be different, because in the previous one you had to find the dividend yield. You're told that 1 year later he sold the shares for $31.80. So important to distinguish between the cost of the share and the selling price of the share. 1 year later means he will receive a dividend. His stockbroker charged 1.8% when buying, so brokerage when buying 1.8 and brokerage when selling 1%. What was the total? So you can see I've worked out the total cost, which will be the cost of the shares and the brokerage. You could pause this and have a look at the numbers there. The B asks for total earnings. Before you can get your earnings, you've got to work out then all your income, and that would include the dividend and the sale of the shares, but don't forget to subtract brokerage, and the difference between your cost and your income gives the earnings. Cost of the share, find the total cost.